everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Props Clear podcast. If you've been enjoying the content on the show, be sure to click subscribe so you can get notified about the latest episodes. You can also follow on podcast platforms. Now, this show is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only, so none of this constitutes legal advice. My goal is to improve public perception surrounding the unmanned aircraft industry. And without further ado, fasten your seatbelts and let's get started. Today's guest is Rebecca Toomey with Windracers. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to talk with you and get this on the books. Like I was telling you before we shot this, you're satisfying my goal of talking to drone industry leaders representing 7 different continents, and you technically are covering 2 of them. So I really appreciate your time. And when I finish with this interview, we'll be up to 6 of 7 because you're representing, Britain in addition to Antarctica. So I just wanted to, first of all, ask you what it was like. You were just in Antarctica doing some research with the Windracers Ultra Drone. Tell me about that experience, just from a personal perspective.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor for me to be in this on this podcast. Regarding my experience in Antarctica, the way I've been describing it to like everyone since I've come back, it's literally been like best experience of my life, both from a work perspective. Working with the British Antarctic Survey has been a great honor, and from a personal perspective, also like being able to experience such an amazing landscape, but also the community that is created in Rothera, where I was based, is just incredible because they're so self-sufficient and everything is so well organized that it just contributes to the experience.
I mean, what were living conditions like?
Yeah, so you'd expect living conditions to be very like tough and in such a remote place, but it's actually organized so well that you tend to forget that you're so far away. They provide accommodation, they provide food. Actually, they provide a lot of food. You get fed 5 times a day in order to keep warm, and they provide all the equipment for you to stay outside in cold conditions. So yeah, it's very easy to forget that you're so remote. But when you think about it and when you look at the landscape, then that's when you actually realize where you are.
Now, what you were able to do is you were able to help get this ultra drone flying around Antarctica for research purposes. What the Windracers goal, Windracers actually has a lot of goals, humanitarian aid, defense, but environmental research as well. And that's why the Windracers ultra drone went down to Antarctica to do some of this research and to just test out the work. I know your drone flew 720 kilometers, which is similar to about 450 miles. I did the conversion before we spoke. It was like 447 to be exact. But your ultra drone flew that long stretch. What was it like in those kind of austere conditions to be flying this giant piece of equipment?
So yeah, it was the drone is actually designed to withstand harsh conditions, and it was really good to actually prove that not only on paper it's able to withstand it, but it actually performed really well in such harsh conditions in Antarctica. Um, as you said, we managed to fly 700 more than 700 kilometers, um, completing science missions with more than 4 sensors and payloads, and the aircraft performed really well. It was really good to get to the end and being satisfied with the results.
Talk to me about your role. What does a ground control station operator do?
So yeah, one of my roles is, as you said, the ground control station operator. So to be honest, most of my job is in the planning phase of the flight, where we define what sorts of science we're going to be doing. We define where we want to be flying. We create a mission, and then
Mhm.
once we upload that mission onto the drone, we're able to command it to basically go and perform that mission. And at that point, my role is mostly monitoring the aircraft. The drone is fully capable of automatic takeoff, completing the mission, and automatic landing all the way down to a full stop. And my role, as I said, is mostly monitoring and intervene should anything happen. And in the case of the flights in Antarctica, I barely did anything from when the aircraft was actually in flight.
Now, when you talk about building the mission, for anyone who may not know much about the drone industry or about your kind of role, what does that mean exactly?
So the way we task the drone to fly, we create a set of waypoints which have latitude, longitude, and altitude information, and then
Mhm.
the autopilot within the drone is basically able to actuate the controls in order to target these waypoints that we set. And yeah, the mission always starts with a takeoff. So once you line it up on the runway, you select it to start the takeoff, and it always ends with a landing. And similar thing, it knows the autopilot is able to basically control it all the way down to a landing to a full stop.
And now I was doing some research about this autopilot system. It's called Masterless. I think it's the only one of its kind in the world. And the cool thing about it is it's not just one computer controlling the autopilot. It's got number of fail-safe mechanisms that if an engine goes out or if something happens, it's able to self-correct and still fly, which is incredible. Can you tell me what you know about the Masterless system?
Yeah, so the Masterless autopilot system has been created by Distributed Avionics, which is a company that's part of the Windracers group. So we work really closely together. The whole architecture has been designed to basically reduce single point of failures. So normally, what you would have is even with triple redundant autopilot systems, you would still have a usually you would still have a single point of failure from where the FCUs, the flight control units, basically merge into one, and then they send controls to the various actuators. This has been
Mhm.
removed by the masterless system by having actuator nodes across the whole aircraft, across the whole control surfaces, so that the decision of which autopilot to actually take inputs from it's made further down the line. And also, all autopilots use all the sensors on board rather than having their direct set of sensors, so that also creates even further redundancy within the system.
So, what do you mean by the actuators? What does that mean?
So the way in drones, control surfaces such as ailerons, flaps, and
Mhm.
elevators and rudders are controlled by servos. What we do is we send commands to those servos in order to actuate the surface to fly the aircraft in the direction or altitude that we need it to. And yeah, so the three autopilots that we have on the aircraft send the commands directly to the actuator nodes that we have across, say, the wings to then actuate the servo within the control surface.
So, if like something happens, like an engine goes out, it is still able to fly its mission and then land successfully, correct?
Yes, so it's the reason why we have two engines is to provide redundancy should an engine go out. The autopilot using the basically the total energy control system that it's used to
Mhm.
control the aircraft is able to then maintain an appropriate speed in order to reduce or minimize altitude loss in order to come back safely.
It really is incredible what this drone can do and what it's doing already, like in Antarctica. Did you ever think that you'd be working with drones, Rebecca?
No, to be honest, it all started while I was at uni. I started doing mechanical engineering at the University of Southampton, and only in my third year, when I was doing my individual project, I then started to
Mhm.
get involved with the braking system of a large drone. And from there, I did my fourth year project still with the same professor regarding a drone that was used, that was made out of natural fibers from the Amazon rainforest. And that's when I
Mhm.
started to get involved with drones more and more. And when I finished university, got a job with Windracers, and that's where the passion about drones really started. at the beginning I was involved with a bit of everything, building, operations, and then I specialized within the operations team as a ground control station operator. My main job is actually the fleet manager. So I mean, I manage all of the maintenance and all of that regarding the fleet, but also as a ground control station operator, which is what I was doing in down in Antarctica.
Maintenance is so important. Every time I talk with, manned and unmanned piloted aircraft, we talk about maintenance so much, because maintenance logs are important. It's important to make sure that everything's up to date, that things are replaced when they need to be replaced. Tell me what advice you have for people who are working on drones, and how important, that kind of work is to the safe operation.
Yeah, I think you hit the right word there. It allows for safe operations, being able to have a track of a record of everything, all the work that has been done on the aircraft. Um, yeah, we try and take as much good practices from the manned aviation industry, so we can apply it to our own case, while having the freedom of not having stringent regulations regarding maintenance. So we're able to basically make it as efficient as possible, but still as safe as possible, basically.
And why are you able to have that kind of loophole with regulations?
So in the UK, we operate within the specific category, which allows us to
Mhm.
create an operational safety case, which the Civil Aviation Authority then approves for us to, and gives us an operational authorization for us to go flying. So we are basically proposing there are some regulations that we need to follow, but they're not as stringent as manned aircraft. So we are able to propose our own way to manage maintenance, basically.
Because it's an unmanned drone,
In
right?
yeah, of it within the specific category.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Well, that's good to know. See, here in the US, I know a lot of the rules with the FAA, Part 107 tests, but there's different rules for every single country in the whole
Hmm.
world. So that's really good to know. And then what was it like, were there any rules or regulations in order for you all to fly in Antarctica that you know of?
So we had to we worked really closely with the British Antarctic Survey Air Unit,
Mhm.
where we there's not regulations in Antarctica, but we wanted to integrate operations with the British Antarctic Survey Air Unit. So we worked really closely with them in developing a concept of operations which would satisfy them from a safety point of view, that we would be able to that the aircraft that the drone would do basically what we're saying that it would do. um, and yeah, it worked out really well. So we um, yeah, there was a lot of planning, a lot of like backwards and forwards in order for them to understand our operations. But once we got there, it was actually really good and really efficient. So they were flying and then we were flying all from the same runway, and it worked out actually really well.
I mean, what's pretty cool is that you were able to team up with the British Antarctic Survey, do all this work in Antarctica. The goal was to analyze environmental changes, in terms of glaciology, geology, and ocean
Yeah.
ecosystems. For this research in Antarctica, do you hope to go back? Do you hope to take the Ultra back to Antarctica for more work?
Yeah, hopefully this project can actually continue. At the moment, it was a project funded by Future Flight 3 Innovate UK, which was grant funded by the UK basically. And this is going to come to an end, I believe, this year, if not next. But we hope that this work with the British Antarctic Survey can actually continue, and we can employ the Ultra to basically help and gather new data and map areas of the continent um, with the Ultra. So we hope it continue. It might not be me going back because it makes sense for other people to have the same opportunity. But I really hope that the whole project actually continues. Yes.
What was your biggest challenge while you were down there?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. I guess the biggest challenge was actually in the preparation. Um, Being so remotely, you need to take into account that you're not gonna have um, availability of spare parts with 1 day delivery. You need to take into account everything that you might need beforehand and pack it all together with the aircraft. We As I said before, the station actually had a lot available, so we did end up taking advantage of all the workshops and everything that they had available on site. But personally, I think the main challenge was actually the preparation and making sure that we had everything we needed there.
And I think one of the main selling points of the Ultra drone is that it doesn't need many spare parts if something goes wrong because of the way it's built, right?
Yeah, so the way it's built, it's built for redundancy, so that should anything go wrong in flight, it's able to actually continue flying yeah, without really noticing much. It's, for example, with the control surfaces, and even the maintenance side of it. Most of the maintenance was done by just replacing of line replaceable units, which is very fast and very efficient. But overall, as I said before, the aircraft just behaved really well in those conditions, and it was just really good to see it putting through like true proper challenges and to a good test, and see it like successfully delivering the science even in such a harsh environment.
Where else do you want to see the Ultra fly? Or where else are you planning to, send it off?
Well, Windracers is targeting different basically areas of industries. So obviously in this case it was environmental research, but there are also plans to be doing aid delivery.
You said you're the fleet manager.
Mm.
Tell me about your fleet of Windracer drones.
Yeah, so Windracers has developed a number of technology demonstrators, ultras, which have been used for demonstrations, to test new technologies, so mostly as a testing and demonstrating platform. And then they started creating the Mach 1 version of the Ultra, which is the production version. And those are being built and flight tested as we speak. We're currently at a production of a few of those per month, and it's continuously ongoing. So my fleet keeps growing basically.
And the crazy thing is that, a lot of the drones that I talk about on this show are small quadcopters or relatively small in the grand scheme of things. This is a large aircraft. I mean, watching it just fly, you can tell just from some of the video that I've seen of it flying over Antarctica. It's got a pretty big wingspan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the aircraft is 10-meter wingspan, maximum takeoff weight of 400 kilos, so it can carry 100 kilos of payload. So yeah, I think if you were to think about it, it would be closer to a light aircraft, a light fixed wing aircraft, than the DJI quadcopter that everyone's used to when you think about a drone.
How do you travel with something like this? Do you take it apart and then you put it in smaller boxes and then you put it together when you got to Antarctica?
Yeah, so the drone has actually been designed to fit in a 20-foot container, which is the standard size for shipping. The way it works, you remove the wings and the horizontal tail, and you fit those in a wind jig that fit basically. It can be you slide it under the belly of the drone, so everything is very
Wow.
compact and it can fit um, for long travel distances in a 20-foot container. Otherwise, for in the UK, we transport it in a 3.5-ton van, which is a van that anyone can drive. So it's actually pretty handy to transport.
That's an engineering marvel. I know you studied engineering at uni. You said that's a heck of an engineering marvel to be able to collapse it into something so small. That was one of my favorite parts when I got my first DJI drone. To be able to see just how the propellers could be popped off, the arms could be folded together, and it could be placed in such a small container. And it's just mind blowing every time I pop open a drone or fold it back together that it's so user friendly like that.
Yeah, I believe it's a similar concept for us. When we turn up at an airfield, we roll the aircraft out, roll the wing jig out, and in 20 minutes, even less, to be honest, we're able to fully assemble it, fully check that everything is, torqued to standard, and complete a pre-flight inspection for it to then just go flying.
And then, your website talks a lot about fuel efficiency. What kind of fuel does it use? I know a lot of, drones out there are battery powered, but, what is its power source?
Yeah, so the aircraft is fitted with the two internal combustion engines. They're four-stroke, two-cylinder, and it just uses standard automotive petrol. So E10 petrol we use.
Oh, wonderful. And is there anything else you want to add about this program or about your experiences in Antarctica? What did you eat? Did you eat a lot of like MREs? Like, what was the food like?
So the biggest challenge, I guess, for the cooks there is that everything is frozen. You don't have availability of fresh produce. But despite that, the food was really good. They do know how to feed you well. And as I was saying earlier, you get fed 5 times a day, and that's to withstand the cold environment there. So in terms of food, I really cannot complain.
And then in terms of like clothing, did you have to wear special clothing if you were outside trying to assemble the drone or work with the drone?
Yeah, so BAS provides you with a 15-kilo kit bag full of all the clothes that you need to use there, from jackets, gloves. There were actually like a lot of gloves. um, yeah, boots, and it was really, really good kit. So yeah, thank you very much to BAS for providing that.
Are you still in contact with the British Antarctic Survey about the work with the Ultra?
Yeah, so at the moment they're just reviewing all the data that they gathered and all the science, and they're providing the results to us, which is actually really exciting to see that something that was collected using the Ultra is actually going to be used by them to understand a bit better, how the Antarctic, um, just to understand a bit better the Antarctic, and to use this data to even help with climate change in the future. Yes, we're still in contact, and we are hoping to do more work going forward to continue on with this project.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. If anyone wants to know more information about Windracers, how can they contact you all?
I believe the best way would be have a look at the website. There's a lot of information there, and I think they're really good also at keeping up with all the news that come up about wind races.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say best thing is the website, and I believe there's also contact information there.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Rebecca. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you sharing your experiences with me. And I think it's great what you're doing with the drone. And, we talk about the importance of getting women involved in STEM fields. You're on the maintenance side in a male dominated industry. Last question. How does it feel to be part of that?
To be honest, the honest answer is I really enjoy it, despite whether it's male dominated or not. I, especially down there in Antarctica, I was working really closely with I was saying about the air unit and the aircraft mechanics, and it was actually mostly women. So I really enjoyed working within the hangar with the mechanics and seeing so many women involved in STEM. I've also been really lucky because within the operations team where I work in Windracers, there's a lot of other women that have my same role as GCS operator. So it's quite a really good community that we have at Windracers.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's a great fun fact too. I love to hear that. I think that's wonderful. And if you have any questions or if you'd like to reach out to me, you're welcome to contact me.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been really nice chatting about this.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can see the joy in your
Yeah.
face about this
Oh,
experience.
absolutely. You can really tell it's been a great experience. I really hope that more people in the company will have the chance to do it, because it's something that will stay with me for a while.
If you have topics or ideas for future episodes, I'd love to hear them. You can email me angelswings.jillian@gmail.com. That's ANGELSWINGS.JILLIAN @gmail.com. I'll see you later.